Hello YouTube, welcome back to this week's episode. I hope you're having a fabulous week so far. It's been another busy one for me, very exciting week. We've had lots of you join the RECOMP Blueprint, which is starting on Monday. You can still join us. The early bird spaces are now gone, but you can still join us until Friday, but I will talk a little bit more about that later. What else has happened this week? I had my nails done. They're really cute. Can you see? Adorable, very springy, I thought. And we're coming up to another bank holiday in the UK on Monday, which always means a busy week in the run up to that, getting clients prepared for the long weekend. Lots of you have got lots of exciting plans, myself included. I've got a hen do, I've got a wedding, all sorts of things going on, which is part and parcel of this time of year. So today I wanted to talk about something that again has been a hot topic in conversations with you guys. I've been posting a lot more about my training, and it seems to be something that you guys like to see and that you have a lot of questions on. So I wanted to do a full episode on how you can set up your training to support your best body composition. So firstly, what do I mean when I talk about your best body composition? And I guess for most people that come to me initially, they're looking to kind of tone up a little bit, right? So in those cases, we're looking at more muscle, less fat. So in order to support that type of body composition goal, I'm going to run through the type of training we're wanting to do, how often we're wanting to do it, what kind of intention we're going into that training with, some possible splits that you could use to split up your training across a working week, and also some of the key mistakes that I think people make when it comes to having that goal in mind and how they approach the exercise side of the coin. I also don't really know if this caveat is needed, but I'm going to say it anyway. All exercise is good exercise. There is no such thing as bad movement, right? Like we should all be doing some sort of regular exercise, and that should be part of our daily life. It's really hard to be a healthy person if you do not have any kind of exercise regularly in your current lifestyle. So number one, we should be doing something, and something is literally always better than nothing. But then when we think about the type of exercise we're wanting to do, I just wanted to break down the kind of age-old debate of weights versus cardio, specifically when we have this body composition focus in mind. So let's start with that kind of cardio piece. And again, this should be, to a degree, part of your current exercise routine. There should be some element of cardio in there because it is so good for you, right? You want to protect your heart health, you want to improve your cardiovascular fitness. It's also great for those mental health benefits too. So non-negotiably, there should be some cardio. But I think where people can often go wrong when we're thinking about more muscle, less fat, it's like, how can I approach cardio in the most calorie smash way possible? Now, a few problems with that. Firstly, it can, especially if you're new to this type of training, if you've not got that threshold level of fitness, it can bury you. That kind of high intensity training can really leave you feeling massively fatigued. It can also increase your hunger response. So you can find if you're doing a lot of high intensity or maybe endurance type cardio, that you're actually really quite hungry afterwards. And that's a completely normal response to your body requiring a lot more of that fuel as a result of that high intensity exercise. The other thing that I tend to notice with people that are wanting to start introducing a bit more cardio is you tend to literally run before you can walk. Let's say you're wanting to take up running and you are brand new to running. So you go, okay, I'm going to go out and run 4 times a week. From 0 to 4 runs a week, you are going to notice that it's really difficult for you to recover from that. And if you're thinking about adding in strength training, which I'll come to in a minute, but is a non-negotiable, it's going to be so hard for you to balance both of those things, again, coming into something pretty fresh. So as a rule of thumb, unless you're already a pretty experienced runner and have a good level of cardiovascular fitness, I would suggest starting small with that cardio element. Moderate intensity, steady state, and gradually build that threshold over time. Now, the obvious positive of cardio when it comes to that body composition goal specifically is it does increase your energy expenditure, right? But we want to strike that balance between absolutely smashing yourself, leaving you knackered and hungry, and adding in that cardio strategically to help with that energy out bucket, meaning you're burning more calories, but it's not having that negative impact on how you feel, how you recover, and your corresponding hunger and appetite. So cardio is good, you should do it, but you need to consider your starting point, and there needs to be a strategy as to how you're going to implement that without it possibly sending you the other way. The other element of cardio that is definitely really popular, and I totally understand why, it's kind of the fitness class type approach. Nothing wrong with fitness classes. In fact, they can be great. Loads of fun. You often meet new people. You don't need to think, you just go in and do what the instructor tells you to. So I totally understand the appeal. And it's probably a net positive to be getting out and doing some form of movement that you know you're going to be consistent with and you enjoy. If that is all you can commit to and all you want to commit to, frankly, then do that. But there are some problems when we think about that body composition focus with just going along to the odd class each week. Firstly, there is no real focus on form, usually. So generally speaking, it's more about how quickly can you get through these exercises rather than a specific tempo that you've got to adhere to, loading up the weight relative to your current strength level. And maybe the biggest missing part is the lack of ability to progressively overload. And that is, as we know, the key to building muscle. So think back to your last strength class. Let's say you were doing a set of squats. How often are you thinking, I should probably up that weight? Or are you just using the same couple of dumbbells each time you step into the class? And again, usually if you've just got access to dumbbells, you're going to run out of road pretty quickly. You don't have the ability to use machines or barbells in order to increase that load over time. So pretty quickly, you're going to get pretty efficient at that class and just simply not be able to progress any further, even if you wanted to. And now for the bit that you knew was coming. Strength training is by far the most important form of exercise you could be doing for more muscle, less fat. Because frankly, you cannot build a significant amount of muscle doing anything other than strength training. You could argue that you build a little bit of muscle mass in things like running or racket sports or swimming. And I'm not saying you won't build any, but you're going to hit your ceiling pretty quickly, and the ability to build significant amounts of muscle mass truly just isn't there. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't want to build significant amounts of muscle mass. I would disagree. You might be picturing big, bulky, masculine physiques when you think about a lot of muscle. But I can guarantee you right now, it is impossible for you to get bulky by accident. So in my view, your goal absolutely should be, how can I build as much muscle as physically possible? So again, when we think about that being the goal, strength training is the number one priority and cannot be skipped. Okay, I think I've made my point. Let's move on to exactly how you want to be implementing that strength training to get the best results. I hate to do this, but I've been faffing around way too long and I now need to go to a client, so I'm going to take you with me.
We're back, gang. So strength training, when we're thinking about setting that up to support our best body composition, firstly, let's think about how you split up your training each week. So the way that you do this is going to largely depend on how much time you have, like how much capacity you have to go to the gym, but also your experience level, right? So let's split this into two camps. Either you are someone who's relatively new to the gym, maybe training less than a year, and fairly time poor. So in those situations, I would say 2 or 3 sessions a week can work really well. When you're thinking about those 2 or 3 sessions, you probably want them to be full body workouts so that you can train each muscle group, each major muscle group effectively in the time that you have. And it also just allows you that time for recovery as well. So with full body sessions, I will usually split these up as follows. I want them to include a squat variation, a hinge, a push, a pull, and then some direct core work. This way, we are covering all of those major muscle groups effectively in the time that we have, right? Now, if you were someone who could train a little bit more and also was maybe erring on that side of more of an intermediate lifter, then it might make more sense to do, say, 4 sessions a week. And with these, I will tend to err towards like a lower, upper split. Now, again, this isn't always the case, and it is going to depend on your goal. So let's say you have a goal in mind of, yeah, I want to get strong all over, like I want a full body strength improvement, but I do want to see a bit more glute development, for example, then you can bias your volume towards those muscle groups. So you might want to do lower, upper, lower, full body split so that you're still getting that time for recovery, but you've got that extra bit of lower body volume in that 4th day. Now, if you're someone who's thinking about training more than that, say 5 times a week, you can see how the possibilities for the different variations can just increase massively. And total rule of thumb, but from my experience, kind of a lower, upper, lower split can work really well for those people who, again, are maybe more intermediate lifters who have that additional time, who want to train 5 times a week. Now, after that point, if you're thinking about 6 or 7 sessions a week, I would caution you against that. Recovery is just as important as the sessions that you do in the gym. If you are constantly burying yourself, constantly pushing through soreness, you don't have any chance to actually build that muscle that you've been working so hard on in your gym sessions. I will almost always recommend at least 2 completely clear days each week. And that doesn't mean you have to like lie on the sofa and do absolutely nothing all day, but it doesn't mean go out for a quick shakeout run or meet your friend and play a game of tennis. Like, that's just another workout. It's just another stress on your body that it's having to recover from. So choosing a split, a gym split, but also a recovery split that works well for you is so important. And just on that note of recovery, like, I'm not saying you need to go and buy a Theragun and get in a freaking ice bath. Like, just chilling is fine. It is a very good form of recovery. Having a nap, not doing much on your rest days, like, that is perfectly fine unless you find that you need any additional recovery protocol. So we've chosen our split. We're happy that we know how many sessions we're doing each week. So now it's down to, what are you actually doing in those sessions? So when we think about exercise selection, there's a few things we want to bear in mind. Firstly, what movements do we actually like doing? Enjoyment matters. Also, like, what movements work well for your structure, for your mobility, your limb length. There is no need, in my opinion, to choose movements that just do not feel right for you. So play around, find your squat, your hinge, your push, your pull. Choose 2 or 3 from all of those camps and just find the ones that feel most sensible for you and that work well for your body. And then there is one other thing that you are going to have to do when it comes to maximizing the amount that you can build muscle. That is intensity. So basically how hard your training actually is. And how hard something is can be a little bit subjective. Your opinion on hard, my opinion on hard, your mate's opinion on hard could all be different. So we need to find a way to actually start measuring this and making it more tangible. So when we think about measuring intensity or how hard something feels, we can actually start to put this on a bit of a scale. And the way that we do this is using something called RPE or RIR. These two things usually work synonymously with each other. So RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. RIR is reps in reserve. So RPE, basically, how hard did you perceive that to be? RIR, meaning how many reps have you got in the tank left at the end of your set? So we can usually measure these a little bit like this. And as you can see, as RPE goes up, RIR goes down. So they work together, and you can use, honestly, either measure, whatever makes the most sense to you. And then generally speaking, we want most of our training to take place at that upper end of the RPE scale or the lower end of that RIR scale. So roughly between 7 and 10 RPE and 0 and 3 RIR. So I would fully encourage you to start using these scales in your training. Once you've finished a set, see if you can put that against a figure on that RPE or RIR scale. This essentially makes sure that we are training with close proximity to failure, which is frankly a non-negotiable. Once you get past that kind of newbie beginner phase, you're going to have to start pushing close to failure for your body to adapt further. So as well as logging that intensity and putting that on a scale, we can also tell that we're training close to failure in a few other ways. So I would 100% recommend, if you don't already, you need to be filming your lifts. This is because what might feel hard and what is actually hard, at least initially when you're practicing this, can be two different things. So you might finish a set of squats and be like, yeah, that was tough. But if you videoed it and watched it back, and actually there's no change in the speed of your reps, there's no visible sign that you're finding that hard in your facial expression or your tempo, then it's likely there's more in the tank than you think. Your brain will often give up before your body. So filming your lifts and looking for those signs of exertion is really key. So you're wanting to see those slow, grindy reps towards the end of a set, not because you're forcing them, but because you literally cannot complete that rep at the same speed in the same way that you did at the beginning. It's an involuntary slowing down of those reps. You also absolutely need to be taking those rest periods. Anytime I get a question about, do I really need to take like 2 minutes rest between my sets? The answer is yes. If you do not need to take that rest, then you're arguably not training hard enough. You should want every single second of your prescribed rest periods. So just make sure you're paying attention to those. And again, if you feel like you can jump into a set 30 seconds after finishing the last one, just have a think, like, did I really give that set everything? If you're not sure where to start with kind of training with that close proximity to failure, there are a couple of things that I would suggest. So firstly, pick a weight that you would normally use for any one of your movements and literally perform as many reps as you can. So rather than just counting to 10 or whatever your rep range is, just do as many reps as you physically can until you start to see that involuntary slowing of reps and kind of that visible difficulty. If your rep range is 8 to 10 and the weight you're currently using you can physically do for 20 reps, you know that categorically tells you that that is the wrong weight for you. I'd also say, if you're new to that concept of training to failure, choose exercises that you feel you're really supported in and that feel safe. So really obvious examples of these that are kind of my go-tos for introducing that idea of training to failure: single joint movements. So things like leg curl, leg extension, bicep curl, tricep extension. You're using one joint and the risk of incurring any injury is very, very minimal. Okay. You're really supportive. Just one joint is moving. You're not going through a big, complex compound lift. So choose a couple of those in your next week of training to target train close to failure because it feels safe to do so. And then as you get more confident with that, you can just incrementally increase where you do that throughout your training. So I guess to sum up, when it comes to training for your best body composition, more muscle, less fat, you're wanting to think about prioritizing strength training over every other form of exercise. If you're doing other exercise, great, I encourage you to do that, but not at the detriment of your strength training output and ability to recover. Choosing a split that works for you consistently, that you can stick to. Having a range target is probably a good idea as well. So on your busier weeks, you could maybe aim for 3 sessions, and on your less busy, kind of normal weeks, you can go for those 4 sessions. As an example, making sure that split is comprised of exercises that work well for you, that you feel like you can get really strong at, that are supportive of your mobility, your structure, your body. Splitting up your volume across the week in a way that allows you to recover and that makes sense for your goals, biasing your volume towards the muscle groups you're wanting to prioritize. And all of that can be done, but if you miss this bit, it won't happen. And that is training with the right intensity. So if you've listened to this and you're like, okay, yeah, makes sense, but you just do not know where to even start with building out your training program to fit all of those factors that I've just mentioned, you're going to need to join the RECOMP Blueprint. This is exactly the type of thing that you learn and crucially can take with you into the future. The early bird spaces are now gone. You can still join us up until Friday at 12 o'clock GMT. I'm going to be closing the doors because it's all done by me entirely, start to finish, and I need time to get you built out. So you have until Friday at 12 if you want to join us. Comment the word blueprint and I'll send you the link. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Love you, bye!